Brick.
I tell him throw it to the left, and I'll put a camera shake graphic on afterward. 2 weeks in a row, he's hit the damn camera. Well, Jason, we are down to the last two official podcasts that are going to be involving NFL picks. So we got 2 more weeks of football over the next 3 weeks, obviously with the break in between, for the AFC NFC Championship games this weekend. And then we got the, we can't legally say Super Bowl, but I just did. So as they say everywhere, the big game in February. Which teams will make it there? We're going to be finding out in less than 7 days. And today on the podcast, we're going to be looking at the Feathers picks for the upcoming games and his analysis. Thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Mike and the Feather podcast. We are excited to be here. We hope if you are new, you'll choose to like and subscribe. If you're new, where have you been, man? The season's almost over. You missed quite a few opportunities. The man to my left gives you his take it to the bank picks every week. And in the last 30 picks, his last 30 take it to the bank picks, he's running at 22-7-1. for an average of 76%. So if you rode this man's last 30 take it to the bank picks alone, you made some money. So we hope you were along with us for the ride. Jason, what did you think of the games this past weekend?
What a weekend. The wild card weekend was kind of blah, obviously, as far as the games weren't close mostly. This was pretty wild, obviously. Games went down to the wire. Other game, situations were kind of decided by referees. You got to feel for Mark Andrews a little bit. I mean, everyone's just crushing that guy. They're like, he better change his height, his address at home because...
I told my friend the Bills need to give him the game ball, but then they'll probably drop that one too. So.
Oh, wow. I mean, okay, it's tough. Lamar Jackson, you knew that one of the two, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, battling for MVP. Both guys have failed immensely in the divisional round, so whichever guy was going to lose was going to get crushed, right? Everyone just knew that. That's, when you're a quarterback, that's what you get no matter what. Lamar Jackson obviously started off with an interception right away, a bad interception, and he also had a fumble loss, which was killer. And then obviously Mark Andrews goes ahead and catches a big pass from Lamar Jackson and obviously fumbles that as well because he got a little bit too cutesy with his move. And, he tops it off at the very end by missing a 2-point conversion that he would have probably caught 99 out of 100 times. And this was the one time he dropped it. So,
I mean, the pass wasn't exactly right in the numbers, but it was where it needed to be. I mean, he had his hands on that one. He could have. I thought it was a catch. I didn't even realize that the ball came out on the first.
Yeah, he was falling down. He's a big man. He's not like, you try catching a ball when it's probably 4 degrees out, real temperature. And I mean, he's kind of falling down. He's 260 plus pounds or more. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, all of us are like Monday morning quarterbacking, like we could have caught the pass, but the average person would have, on their way down, would have dropped it probably as well. He's expected to catch it as he should. He's a paid multimillionaire, but mistakes happen. The Bills moved on. I'm very to our, take it to the bank. Boom.
Yeah, definitely. So in regard to last week, we were 3-0-1 on the picks. We had the one push on the Rams game. Now we're going to take a look at the Feathers' opinions, in-depth insight, and possibly a few choice words about Mr. Patrick Mahomes in the Feathers NFC AFC Championship picks of the week.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna fire off right away with talking about the Commanders, and we're gonna start with the NFC matchups. Commanders Lions. I mean, first and foremost, my absolute brick of the week goes to one man, and that's Mr. Jared Goff. 3 interceptions, and he crapped the bed in an incredible way, and he had a good year. The team as general had a great year, but for this one, Jared Goff, brick.
I tell him throw it to the left, and I'll put a camera shake graphic on afterward. 2 weeks in a row, he's hit the damn camera. I swear. Surprise, but no representation from the NFC North in the championship games. And you'd be surprised when that division was so difficult the whole year.
NFC North had the best record, with the top 3 teams, right? I mean, they were dominant. They basically only lost to each other. Hayden Daniels looks outstanding. I mean, the guy is having a storybook year. Go figure. You get rid of the trash dumpster known as Dan Snyder, owner of the Washington Commanders, and this team is blossoming. They got Dan Quinn, who's been a great coach. Follow him to the ends of the earth, and good things are happening in Washington, and I'm glad for him. It's been a long drought, and now I guess we can say only the Dallas Cowboys carry the longest drought without making it to the divisional round. 29 years.
Is it? Wow.
Since the Dallas Cowboys made it to the divisional to the championship round.
Yeah, 33 years for the Commanders back when they were a different team name. That's got to be something. Think about that. You could be as a child, if your parents got you interested as a Commanders fan. This is your first championship, and you're approaching middle age.
Yep. Now on the other side of the ball, the Rams, you got to feel sorry for them. I mean, now they're going back to reality. The season's over. They had a shot. I mean, it came down to the end. They were down 6 with 2 minutes and like 23 seconds left. They had a great chance to get the W. I mean, they had it down to the 13-yard line, 2nd down and 4, and then they got a penalty, and then they got a sack, and it was all she wrote. Philly, Saquon Barkley was unbeatable. The guy managed to go for 200+ yards again. He had a 71-yard touchdown run, and I think a 60-something touchdown run. And then Jalen Hurts, the guy who's had a concussion a couple weeks back, he runs for almost around a 50-yard touchdown run. Big plays were the key. And in the end, hats off to the Eagles. We took the push on that one. That's fine. But the Eagles, they definitely flew to the NFC Championship. And now those are the 2 big matchups. Would you have thought that it would be the battle of the NFC East in the conference championship game? I mean,
even if you had, would you have thought it was going to be Washington?
Yeah, Washington versus the Eagles. I mean, and this is interesting. It's a rubber match because Washington beat the Eagles once this year, and now this is the tiebreaker to go to the Super Bowl. We saw Jalen Hurts get bent over and his knees kind of got jacked up a little bit. He just wasn't quite the same after that. He handed the ball off, and you saw Saquon Barkley and him kind of have a little conversation when they were lined up side by side, and Saquon Barkley said something to him like, "I got you, man," or who knows what it was, right? And then he takes the handoff and goes and takes it to the house for the touchdown. They are a run-first team now with Saquon Barkley and defense, but that's the other problem. Defensively, they lost another player in Mitchell in the defensive backfield, so they're already down for the year. Dean, this could be tricky because this is a big game. You're not dealing with an aged Matthew Stafford that really can't run as we saw. You're dealing with Jaden Daniels that's like playing Madden on video game rookie level. The guy can do anything.
Maybe he's either overconfident, but Jaden Daniels looked freaking poised that entire game. Like they say, act like you've been there. You couldn't tell the difference.
He's cool as a cucumber. I mean, that's the thing. He seems like a humble guy. He's literally as steady as he gets. The guy had a monster game to go to the NFC Championship, and he was totally just chill at all points. The camera panned to him, chill. When he was on the field, chill. All while using Austin Eckler, which Austin Eckler has been huge. He was huge when he was playing for the Chargers. The guy was monster this last game. His ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and make players miss is second to none. Dan Quinn, give him all the credit in the world. Another blunder by the Dallas Cowboys. Here they have Dan Quinn, who would have been more than happy to take the head coaching position, but they didn't pull the trigger. They let him go, and Washington scooped him up, and here we are. Washington's in the show, and Dallas is not.
So with all those factors said, these 2 teams are going to meet up at noon on Sunday, and right now the line originally opened right after the game at 5. It's already moved to -5.5 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles at home against the Washington Commanders. So given all this information, what's your current feeling this Monday afternoon on the matchup?
Yeah, it's going to be a great game, first of all. I just believe it's going to come down to if they can prevent the big plays out of Barkley and Hurts. I think that Barkley's going to get his yards, but if he gets 200 yards, it's going to be very tough for this Washington team to win. But I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders +5.5. It seems like a lot of points. I feel like this is a division rival. They know each other very well. And Jaden Daniels is the X factor here. I mean, he is able to do everything, okay? He's going to be able to run and be way more mobile than Matt Stafford. The running game for Washington has been, up and down in this new offensive coordinator's setup with Brian Robinson not, eating as much as he did in the prior year. Terry McLaurin is outstanding. Zach Ertz had a lot to say last week against the Detroit Lions and had some key touchdowns, especially when they went for it on 4th down, and it was a pinnacle point, and Zach Ertz is that steady guy that they can rely on, a wily veteran, and now he's going up against his old team. It's going to be exciting. This game's going to be great. The Washington Commanders are going to get it done, +5.5. For sure the points, I do believe it's definitely an upset alert situation. Washington absolutely can win this game outright, but 5.5 points seems a little high. I think this game very well, if Washington would lose, is going to be within a field goal, but Upset alert is live and well, as Washington Commanders, I believe, have a great shot to get to the Super Bowl on the back of Jane Daniels and Dan Quinn's great team.
And then on the other side of the conference, we had the AFC games this past weekend. You might have a few choice words on this one, I guess. Let's look at the Texans at the Chiefs and the game that obviously we talked about. Texans didn't have much to lose. They were not even backs against the wall. They were on death row. Let's just put it that way. And if someone's not afraid to die, you got to watch out for them. But it seemed like we had a little bit of what everybody expected to happen with the Chiefs game, between the refs and the lack of ability to get the offense moving for the Texans.
Yeah, the Kansas City refs got the win. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, we picked them, so it's crazy that sports bettors have to factor that in when who they're going to pick, like this upcoming game. Are they like, okay, I want to pick the Bills, but are the refs going to, create an issue? And even the NFL address, they felt like both of those roughing the passer calls were legitimate, which they weren't. In any world, those two roughing the passer calls that Patrick Mahomes got was terrible.
Troy Aikman didn't even agree with it, right?
Yeah, Troy Aikman, pretty much nobody did. The NFL, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what the motive is. If these are rogue referees, but either they're incompetent or they're fixing situations. There's no middle ground here. You can't. One of my buddies, Sam, he always says, "Oh, it happens in every game." Well, I challenge you to last other 3 games that weekend. There was no outrage over anything. Yeah, there's ticky-tack BS that could go one way or another, but there was no outrageous calls. There was no other players on any other teams complaining about the refs. Patrick Mahomes not only took 2 hits that weren't roughing, but then he was skedaddling out of bounds, decided to stop on a dime, and then flopped worse than LeBron James. The hip tackle that didn't get called, against the Chiefs, and it goes on and on and on like a broken record, game after game after game. So, but you know what? Just like everything else politically, it's always a conspiracy theory when they're trying to snowball you and tell you you're crazy to cover up their misdeeds. It's very frustrating to me. It's very frustrating to fans. It was frustrating to the coaching staff and the players of the Texans, and it was frustrating to people all over the league. The only people that whine and say, "Oh, it's not true," is Chiefs fans, okay? The Dan Fadex of the world, Don't get me wrong, they got the W in the end. But you know what? It'd be nice to have a full game, and hopefully this week against the Bills, we're going to get a full game where it's just a well-officiated match, and there's no drama. I mean, I think definitely it's going to open the door that in the offseason, they're going to work on trying to set up some sort of like governing body over each game that can kind of oversee, like when there was a call that's not correct on the field, instead of having it be a challenge or like the roughing's not a challengeable situation, they can undo a wrong, which is necessary because guess what? In the end of the day, there's a lot of money at risk. Coaching jobs are at risk. I mean, it affects all the way down the line. So when these officials mess up, coaches lose games, players lose games, it costs people their livelihood and their jobs. So guess what? They need to have more checks and balances on these officials. And guess what? The NFL needs to have these officials be full-time officials. They need to pay them correctly. They can afford it. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They need to have these officials be full-time guys. So guess what? Johnny Referee is not a part-time accountant during the season. He's basically a full-time official at all points. They pay him accordingly so they actually have to, in their off time, work on their trade like any other job to better themselves. And the only way you can do that is if they're full-time professional officials. And they're getting paid well already, but guess what? Pay them a little bit better so that they don't need to do their part-time or full-time job with the officiating, and maybe the product in the field will be better because of it. Now, and as far as the other one,
we had the Ravens at the Bills, and I mean, we mentioned a little bit about Mark Andrews having the dropsies and Lamar Jackson making a couple of critical mistakes. The Bills looked good. They, even with defensive injuries, they are hitting the stride, and Josh Allen feels unstoppable. I think that's maybe where the betting public looks at it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as talking about the Ravens and the Bills game first, Josh Allen, he's Superman. That's the bottom line. The guy, honestly, if it wasn't for a very poor play call by the Bills coach at the end of the game when it was third down and goal on the 2-yard line, why they have him lined up in shotgun to do a draw into the NFL quarterback sneak from the shotgun is beyond me. The man is 260 plus pounds. You put him at the 2-yard line, you do the tush push like they had done twice that game earlier, and he's going to get in the end zone from the 3-yard line probably, just with his body weight and going forward. Granted, the Ravens are a better team as far as to be able to stop that. They're equipped to stop those kind of runs. But in the end, Josh Allen would either got in the end zone or got down to the 1 or half-yard line, which would have set up a fourth down situation, which would have been still tricky if he didn't get in, because you want to go, you're up 5 at that point. You want to go up 8 to make him a touchdown and 2-point conversion. For sure, in third down, don't do a quarterback sneak from the shotgun, okay? Just don't do it. Get in the end zone in third down so you don't have to make that fourth down on the half-inch line situation call. That's where coaching, and I believe this strongly, the Bills' failure as a franchise, I believe, is tied directly to their coaching and some of their poor, not so top defenses over the years. It's not his fault when they're failing. Most of his games, he had great games, whether it's a combination of passing and rushing in these playoff games, but the defense has lacked, and I believe the coaching is still a little bit lacking. I'm not sold on their coach, and I think that that's a problematic spot. We'll see how he does. We'll see how this game finishes out, but they need to get over that hump, and they haven't been able to do it. So I feel bad for Lamar. I feel bad for the Ravens in general. John Harbaugh is a great coach. He's a future Hall of Famer. Mark Andrews is a top-tier tight end. I feel horrible for him because I know he's a competitor, and it's the last thing he wanted to do is let his team down. But I believe the better team at home got the W yesterday, and now we're going to see what happens in the final AFC Conference Championship.
And that said, leads us to the other game of the weekend. That is going to be the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. Betting public might think that either Chiefs are invincible. The sports public might think that Patrick Mahomes gets all the calls from the refs. That could be factored in because if you look at the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, they do seem to be able to find a way to win the games they need to. They already beat the Chiefs once this season. So the game starts at 3:30 p.m. this Sunday. The Bills are at the Kansas City Chiefs, and as of the recording on Monday morning, the line currently stands at the Chiefs, favored by 2 points.
Big game. Everyone's wanting to see it. The one team that actually beat the Chiefs in the regular season and were the only ones that had a shot at taking the number 1 seed, but just couldn't quite get there. The question mark that I have is, so Travis Kelce, playoff Travis Kelce showed up, right? He's been kind of a rumbling, stumbling, bump on a log most of the year. He looks like he's lost out there half the time and will catch a pass and get us some yards. But this game, he was the guy. I mean, granted, he was open on so many passes, but he was about it. The Kansas City Chiefs barely crossed the 200 total yard mark, and it took about 40 yards of garbage time towards the end of the game to go over the 200 yards, and 100 plus of which were from Travis Kelce. So what does that say? That says that, okay, Hollywood Brown, who now is fully acclimated in the offense, been around for a few games, he did not much of anything. Rookie Worthy, not much of anything. And DeAndre Hopkins, does anyone know where he was? Was he at the game? DeAndre Hopkins looked non-existent. They're gritty, and you're right, they find a way to win. They're winning one way or another, whether it's the officials or some, error at the end by the other team or some lucky block kick. In regards to the Bills, the difference, from past playoff situations with the Bills, Josh Allen has a little bit more help with 2 solid running backs. James Cook has been huge this year, and he took a step forward from last year, and that's all the difference right now. Josh Allen doesn't feel like he has to do it all. He's making good decisions. He's not turning the ball over, and he's getting good help from these young wide receivers as well. And Amari Cooper still, to date, hasn't done much since he came to the Bills. The guy's talented. I'm hoping that he catches on to this offense and starts becoming more of a threat down the field, because he was that in Dallas, and he definitely was that playing for Cleveland. I'm liking this situation. I think the defense of Buffalo has played solid this year. They've had some moments where they gave up a ton of yards, like against Detroit, but still got the win. The Buffalo defense has been problematic for much of the year, but Josh Allen, in spite of that, has got enough points on the board to consistently win games. Right now, it seems like all systems are firing as long as their head coach can continue to make good decisions, because I feel like he made a few poor ones in yesterday's game. James Cook does what he's been doing. Josh Allen does not have to put up a 300 or 400 yard game like he has in the past against Patrick Mahomes, and still fell short because it was all on him. And then when he starts getting pressured, he makes mistakes. He's not doing it this year. That's going to be the difference. We're going to take the Buffalo Bills to the bank all day long. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. You can message on Monday morning saying, thank you very much. I appreciate the money you made for me, because they're going to do it all day long. Bills Mafia going crazy after their team goes to the Super Bowl for the 5th time. Boom.
You know what's happened about 33 years ago?
What's that?
Mr. Scott Norwood missing the kick and winning it for my New York Giants in the 1991 Super Bowl. But you know what? It's 33 years later, and I'm rooting for the Bills to finally get one, because I watched those 4 in the 90s too. I don't know how that's never talked about that often. The 4 Super Bowls in a row that the Bills lost. The Chiefs are trying to get to the Super Bowl 3 times in a row and win. The Bills got there 4 times in a row and lost.
Yeah, you know, like I said, I make my picks unbiased. That's why I picked against the Packers. That's why I picked for the Chiefs last week. It has nothing to do with my feelings, but as far as how I feel personally, I want this one for the Bills bad. I want it for Jim Kelly. I want it for the fans. I want it for a franchise that has not gotten there yet, and they deserve to. And guess what? They're going to do it this time. The Bills go to the Super Bowl, and I believe it's very good possibility they're going to be playing the Washington Commanders. But I'm not going to commit to that completely. I think for sure they stay within the spread. I'm excited. We got 2 weekends of football left. You can't beat it. All of a sudden, the season, where did it go, Mike? Exciting stuff. I'm like a kid in a candy shop for the next couple weeks. Let's see what happens. We appreciate all you guys. And yeah, going forward, looking forward to good things. What do we got on tap in the future, Mike?
The week between the Super Bowl and this weekend's games, we'll be looking back at the Feathers' record for the entire season. We'll probably be talking about some of the best and worst moments. We got a few things in the works, so we're definitely going to keep you guys entertained during the time between now and the Super Bowl. We'll be back here on the other side of those games. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next Monday with the wrap-up of the season and start getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Enjoy the games this weekend, and remember, take it to the bank. Boom.